This thing just, it pounds. It absolutely pounds when it comes to how much bass comes off. That's pretty impressive. All that's coming up in this video. And nothing wrong, it's a pretty good setup, very smart speaker. So let's go to the back, let's take a look, see, and then we'll come back to the front, because look at that. I've got a dB meter. Here it is. And again, this is exciting. It's always exciting to get new equipment. It's incredibly well packaged. It's going to have the manuals. They're the only guys to actually seal their bags. They're sealed. And again, don't assume they're all sealed. All the ones I get are usually sealed. When we used to have our showroom, we used to pre-test all speakers before shipping. We used to run them for 5-10 minutes, make sure they were all fine, then put them back in a box, then ship them, because, well, shipping's very, very expensive. And if you're a small dealer selling equipment and selling it online, you want to make sure it's working before it leaves your shop. Battery's already pre-installed and the power cord. So now we can hook everything up and use it without the actual power cord. So let's talk about the speakers and talk about something I haven't seen yet. Somebody take the covers off of these things and show you some pretty exciting stuff when it comes to how the speakers have been developed, engineered, how much smarts have been put into this. Because so many people are quick to question the quality of engineering in a product. So what we're going to do is look at this guy first. This is basically their 8-inch to go. This is the Thump to Go. And it's not upside down, by the way, because you saw that, didn't you? The tweeter is down here, the woofer is up here. Why did they do that? Because they can. There is no rule that says put the tweeter up here and put the woofer down there. There's no rule, absolutely none. There's no rule that says this has to be at the bottom. But as an engineer, knowing that this doesn't matter and knowing that you have to hide a battery somewhere, the battery, right? It's got to go somewhere in this box. So you look at the profile and you ask yourself, well, there's an amp plate here. If I put it there, it's going to be in the way. If there's a woofer at the bottom, it's going to be in the way. It's going to be in the way, be in the way. You'd have to put it on top, which kind of be weird, but it's doable. But why would you do that? Instead, the tweeter occupies a lot less space internally in the box. So that means that when you put the battery in, it can go in here. No new space has to be made. The pole mount is still here. Because the tweeter is out of the way now compared to the woofer driver, all this fits in the same size box you would normally have any other 8-inch package. Really smart. Didn't change anything, just thought smarter about it. And that's why you deal with high quality engineers. They're going to give you something. If you have a problem with a product, it's usually because we don't understand what's going on. I rarely do I ever say, why would they do that? It's happened occasionally. Sometimes it's a power cord issue or something like that's happened in the past. But you know what? I don't see that problem here. So kudos to them. That is a very smart team that came up with that idea and solved that problem. Plus, did something pretty cool because nobody else is doing this right now. So kudos to them. So now let's talk about the subwoofer. Now again, very cool. They're not the ones to invent this. They're not the first ones. They were probably developing it at the same time. But by the time they got around to getting out with it now, the other guys, Yorkville beat them by like 3 years. So it's been a while. But their battery's not removable and they only have one battery, and it's just like either it's low or it's full charge. I mean, I'll be honest, maybe it's lithium, I guess. I couldn't tell you for sure, but it's not removable. It's not replaceable without taking apart the whole box. Now, if you look at it carefully, this is what I was talking about earlier. You see a taper in the speaker. The speakers are on an angle. Now, maybe it's a 15-degree angle. I couldn't tell you for sure. I didn't break out the measuring tools, but they're both angled. It allows the actual sound to squeeze together. Now remember, it's mixing with the actual port inside because the port is right in the middle, and because the speakers are angled towards each other, everything's coming out and creating a lot of energy, a strong bass presence in the room. The double 8-inch to me is much tighter bass. So of course, you're not going to get the volume that you get out of an 18-inch, but it's going to be tighter than an 18-inch, that's for sure. It's going to have that solid bottom end without any fluttering or distortion. Remember, you're limited to the overall cap when it comes to volume, because again, 2 double 8s, it's like 2 8-inch pizzas instead of a 16 or 18-inch pizza. You can only feed so many people, but the quality and performance, especially when you add it with an 8 or 10 on top of it. If you have 2 of these guys like I do here, That's very, very nice. Very, very impressive. There's no small regular stand-up gig that you're going to do, or if you're a street performer, or if you're somebody who's doing a cafe, a bar, a restaurant, a house of worship. I mean, the list goes on and on, where this is absolutely perfect. If you're tired of carrying around a giant sub wherever you go, and you've got the money in your budget, buy yourself one or two of these. Definitely a great way to go. I think they're awesome. They sound great. I've been playing with them now for a couple of weeks, and woof, wow. So this video is primarily, amazingly enough, about the subwoofer. So we're going to go through all the different setups, options when it comes to connecting the subwoofer with the actual Thump Go's that we have here. Now, I want to cover 3 really important features on the Thump Go before we actually move on to the subwoofer, because I haven't done the whole video yet on this, but I do think these things deserve to be added on. One is the Bluetooth capabilities of it. The range is very good, easy, links, and you can sync up with 2 of them. The app is very nice. It's very simple, very easy to use, and very fun. You can download it right now. You just go to the App Store. Mackie Thump is the Connect 2 option, because they've got the new updated. And 3, the feedback suppression system. Now, there'll be a link eventually up there if they give me any details, we come up with anything. They put out a video, and I'm just being fair and honest. I have been talking with them and trying to figure out what they did or if I did anything different. But the feedback is really, the suppression system works. It's a 6-layered notch filter that they have on the speaker, which basically means it's constantly scanning when you turn it on, and when it catches it, it applies it, then it applies, then it applies it, and if it needs to, it'll apply the next 3 as well to catch and reduce that feedback that's happening. Now, they show really up close, but to be honest, I couldn't get it to make a difference, but at the same time, I couldn't get it to feedback. If you're 3 feet away from it and you have the volume on stupid loud, you still can't get any feedback out of the speakers, so I'm assuming you're going to be standing more than 3 feet away. So that being said, the way the speaker's set up already, and with the feature on or off, it's going to be great at getting rid of that feedback. Now, this is also very important. The Bluetooth out function, once you engage Bluetooth or Bluetooth with the link for both speakers, the through pass, the output, the XLR out on the back of the speaker doesn't work. You're not going to get any audio out that way, but they did solve it with the speaker, and we're going to talk about that when we get to connecting everything up together again. Outside of that, nothing wrong. It's a pretty good setup. Very smart speaker. So let's go to the back. Let's take a look, see, and then we'll come back to the front, because look at that. I've got a dB meter all set up, weighted. This thing just, it pounds. It absolutely pounds when it comes to how much bass comes off of it. That's pretty impressive. All that's coming up in this video. So here we go. We've got 2 of the Thump Go's and 2 of the ThumpSUB Go's. And of course, we've got an alto mixer in front, but this is just a mixer to show you how to do the mixer setups. The most important thing is the actual instruction manuals. This is the quick guide for both the subwoofer and the Thump Go, the 8-inch powered speaker, the 8-inch battery powered speaker. So now these 2 are very important to have, but most importantly is to go to Mackie's website, and download the full extended version of the manuals that you can get on their websites. They're much, much more detailed, and they truly give you a lot more information than you get out of the quick guide. The quick guide's quick and convenient, easy out of the box stuff to use right away. But if you want to learn the nitty-gritty about this stuff, get that full extended manual. So in this video, we're going to show you the 3 different ways you're going to want to hook this up, which has to do with the configuration. Maybe you have 2 tops, 1 sub. Maybe you have 1 sub, 1 top. Maybe you have 2 subs, 2 tops. We'll go through these kind of quickly. That's an easy thing to learn. Now, I've already done the initial factory setup of how they'd like to see this. Now, if you've got 2 subs and 2 tops, you're going to come out of your mains, off your mixer. So in this case, I'm using quarter-inch cables, just like that. And we're going to run those quarter-inch cables up to the subs first, or in normal world, down to the subs. And we're going to go left and right, 1 on each sub as the input. Then we're going to take the output and we're going to run off to our left and to our right speakers. This is going to be the initial 2 subs, 2 mains, 1 mixer setup. Now on the back of the speaker, you do have some buttons on it. You've got a full range high pass output. You've got LED lights on and off. You've got a phase, normal or reverse, so you can invert the sub. And you've got a full range output in stereo or mono. Now, because we're treating this as a left and right setup and we want stereo, we're going to leave these buttons out, but that's not really going to be here or there in this case because we're only plugging into channel A on the back of the sub on both speakers. So that's going to be an option that's not really utilized in this setup. Phase, we're going to keep these both normal, and then the front LED is going to be optional. At first you're going to want it on to make sure everything's working, but you can turn that off. You don't want to see the green light. On top, we're going to have full range or high pass. If you're using it with the Thump Go series, the 8-inch, then I would definitely want to turn the high pass on. It basically lets the high signals, cuts off the actual low frequencies from the actual speaker. On the back of the speaker, in this case, the Thump Go, you've got voicing modes. So you can actually just go down to subwoofer, and if we look at the handy dandy chart, it basically shows that we're cutting off that 80 Hertz from the actual system, which would be the same as basically pressing this button up here. Slightly different crossover points, but your choice which way you like to hear the sound. So I can not use the high pass and just go full range, engage the subwoofer, or vice versa. Engage the actual high pass, so this way only at high frequencies, set the speaker music mode, and you're all set to go. So we're going to do the same thing when we get to the left side. We're going to come out of the mixer, go into the sub A right on top here. Then we're going to come out, the same A option coming out of the speaker, just like that. So the subwoofer output's there. And then we're going to lead that right back into channel 1. Set the volumes all at unity, which is 50% in this case. Your main volumes, everything is all set, ready to go. At this point, we adjust the mixer to our liking, add a little salt, a little pepper, spice it up just right. We're going to have beautiful sound that comes out of here, feeds the subs, feeds the mains. That's perfect. Now, let's say we only had one sub, not two. Well, that's pretty simple because we're already halfway there. So what we're going to do is unplug our left sub in and out. So we're going to take the mixer and we're going to plug that into the back of the subwoofer, our one sub. We're going to take the output, plug that in down here. Now we're going to make sure we run it in stereo if we want to have a true left and right speaker setup, and everything else stays exactly the same. Now we're going to have signal coming out of the mixer into the top of the sub, A and B, left and right in this case, and then we're going to have A and B coming out, left and right speakers. It's that simple. Now if we have one speaker, we've got two ways. One sub, one speaker, we have two ways that we can hook that up. Most mixers on the left channel allow you to be mono, so I literally don't even have to have the entire secondary wiring system connected. That would be it. I would come just out of my left, which would automatically make the mixer mono, and everything would just go in, out, back into the speaker. Everything is done there, no worries. If I'm concerned about having a stereo signal reach the speaker because of the signal, then of course I would plug in my right cable into back the subwoofer, and then I would take my secondary cable, make sure it's plugged coming out of the sub, and then I would just go into that one speaker. Set both of the gain controls for channel 1 and 2 to the same level, and you're going to be balanced as an input coming into this unit. Everything's all set, everything's all ready. That's it. That's the world according to a mixer. So now let's clear this up a bit and let's get into the Bluetooth options because there's some pretty cool functions when it comes with it. You're still going to need cables, but they're very crafty and very smart about how they got everything done. So here we are right back to where we started, nothing on the back of the speakers, and the intentions are how many different ways do we have Bluetooth? Well, if you've already bought some Thump Go's, you're probably already familiar with the fact that you have Bluetooth on the back of the speakers and you have a link. But I will cover in an easy way how quick it is. To link up to your first speaker, you literally just turn on the pair button, which lights up this guy right here. Connect to your first speaker, just like that. Once it's done, you're connected. If your speaker is already set up with the link function because you've done it before, you don't even have to press the links on the back of the both. But if they don't light up blue, so let's say your speakers haven't been paired off before, brand new out of the box, press link on your main speaker, so we're choosing this to be our main speaker, and then follow through, press link on the second speaker. Once you've done that, those lights will stay synced and connected. This will also allow you to use the app that's good to go with the Mackie Thump Go. So there you go. everything's good to go because it's the Mackie Thump Go. Now, we've done that. The problem is that the output on the back of this doesn't work with the actual Bluetooth. So though we've connected the speakers wirelessly to our phone, we've done nothing for our subwoofers. Now normally if you had a subwoofer from any other company, that would be a problem. But no, you've got the ThumpSUB Go, and the ThumpSUB Go features Bluetooth. Yes, the reason why this Bluetooth is here, and notice there's no linking option, this is just Bluetooth for this subwoofer. Well, that's going to allow us to do something very magical. So let's work with that today. First, we're going to need 4 XLR cables because we have 2 mains and we've got 2 subs. If we only had 1 sub, we'd still need at least 2 XLR cables to make a proper connection. But because we're going to run this sub in conjunction with the whole system via Bluetooth, so you can run it off your tablet or you can run it off your phone, that's the way you want to do it. I'm not here to judge, it's going to work. Now the first thing we have to do is come out of our main speaker that we've got Bluetooth on, which is going to be this guy here. This is the one we've paired off to. We're going to need some XLR cables. We're going to need to make that connection. So what are we going to do? This one does feed the line out. The output is hot. This guy is ready to go. It'll feed the music for the actual speaker and it'll come out the cables, and it's then going to come into channel A and B on the second sub. So now we've gotten the signal out of here and we've pumped it into this guy. This guy's ready to go. This is very exciting. We're halfway there. Now we're getting an XLR cable, and yes, you are following along really well. We're going to come out of this guy. We're going to come out of the right side. We're going to plug right into that speaker there. So now this is connected to here. Now we just got to follow through and make that last connection. So again, we're going to come out on the left, we're going to come across, and we're going to plug right into here. Everything's set to unity. We're good to go. Now, this is very important. We want to keep everything in stereo. So if we stereo here, we're going to pull both signals, left and right, from our phone or tablet out of here in stereo. That's going to come back into here in stereo. So we're going to want to make sure and leave these guys in stereo. And that's going to mean that we're going to end up with a left and a right speaker going out to the audience. Yes. One more button to press, and this one's in the wrong position from our last setup. This needs to be in full range. So that high pass mode, that's what's going to make sure. We need to make sure it's in full range. We want the bass to come out of here as well and make its way to this speaker right here. So this way we're going to get full sound in here and bass included. So if you're not getting bass out of the speaker, probably that button's most likely pushed in. So now we're here, we're ready to go out to the main speakers. Now because I want to keep my speakers, the voice modes on in music, I'm going to actually press the full range high pass option. I'm going to choose high pass. I'm going to push that in. So only the highs. We're going to cut out that 150 out of there, and we're going to get that out to these speakers. Maximize the volume on our tops. Increase the overall performance of the bass, because now we've got these 2 ThumpSUB Go's. This is an impressive setup. This is what we're going to pump out the front. Now this setup here at 1 meter away is over 100 dBs. Now remember, size matters when it comes to volume. At 1 meter, we're going to have some amazing bass, some amazing performance. But that's going to get trickled down. That's going to thin out in the room rather quickly. So if you're pushing 12 to 16 feet, it's going to make a bit of a difference. But the impressive part is that you're normally not playing these as your main primary setup. This is usually that secondary system that's running that just wants to fill the room with music. A great way to go. So there you go. That's what we're looking at in the back. That's how we've set this all up. This is an awesome system. Right now, there's very few systems that I really want to listen to on a regular basis. But this is definitely one of them. These subs are going to get incorporated and they're going to get used an awful lot.